All right, let's talk about something that gets really confusing. The link between alcohol and your brain. One minute you hear a glass of wine is good for you, the next you hear it's a poison. So what's the real story? We're about to break down the science, and honestly, it's pretty surprising.
We've all seen those headlines, right? One day it's red wine is great for your heart, and the next it's alcohol increases cancer risk. It can feel like whiplash. So when it comes to our brains, what's the actual truth? Let's dig into the real numbers.
And this is why it matters so much. Just look at the scale here. Back in 2020, almost half of the entire US population had a drink. At the same exact time, you have over 6 million people living with Alzheimer's. This isn't just a small overlap, folks. We're talking about a massive public health intersection. Understanding how these two things are connected is absolutely critical.
Okay, so this is where the story takes a really unexpected turn. I think most of us just assume that when it comes to keeping our brains healthy, any alcohol is bad alcohol. But the research actually paints a much more complicated picture.
This is where it gets wild. A major study in 2020 found that, and I'm not kidding here, moderate alcohol intake might actually have a protective effect on the brain. It could potentially lower your risk for Alzheimer's. Now that seems to fly in the face of everything we think we know, which of course leads to the single most important question.
What in the world does moderate actually mean? This right here is the absolute key to this entire topic, because the definition is super specific, and it's probably a lot less than you think.
Okay, so the official dietary guidelines for Americans don't mess around. For women, moderate drinking means 1 drink a day or less. For men, it's 2 drinks or less. And here's the crucial part. This is not a weekly average. You can't just save up all your drinks for Saturday night. It's a daily limit, period.
And what is 1 drink anyway? Well, it's a standard 12-ounce beer, or a 5-ounce glass of wine, which, let's be honest, is probably smaller than the pour you're getting at a restaurant. Or it's a 1.5-ounce shot of hard liquor. Knowing these exact amounts is everything, because it is shockingly easy to cross the line from moderation into excess.
So that's the maybe good side of the story. But now we have to talk about what happens when we step over that line. Because the second you do, this whole conversation flips on its head. Any of those potential benefits, they vanish. And the risks, well, they become incredibly serious.
And that line is crystal clear. It's defined by both a daily and a weekly limit. For women, if you have more than 3 drinks on any single day or more than 7 in a week, that's considered excessive. For men, the numbers are more than 4 in a day or more than 14 in a week. And get this, crossing just one of those thresholds puts you in the high-risk zone.
So why is that line so important? Because when you're drinking at excessive levels, the science is just brutal. Alcohol acts as a neurotoxin. That's a fancy word that means exactly what it sounds like. It is toxic to your brain. It's literally a poison for your brain cells. There's no gray area there.
And the result of that poison is just staggering. Long-term excessive drinking can increase your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease by 300%. I'm going to say that again because it's that important. Not 30%, 300%. That is a truly life-changing statistic.
So let's break this down even further. How exactly does all this damage happen? What does this war on the brain actually look like up close?
Well, it's really a multi-front attack. For starters, heavy drinking can physically shrink your hippocampus. That's the part of your brain that's vital for learning and making new memories. It also increases the risk for all types of dementia, not just Alzheimer's. And then it does this other sneaky thing. It can actually block your body from absorbing thiamine, also known as vitamin B1, which your nervous system absolutely has to have to function properly. All this damage can lead down 2 very different and very devastating paths. First, you have alcohol-related dementia. You can think of this as the direct damage, the alcohol's toxic effects just hammering away at the brain cells, causing memory problems and poor judgment. But then there's something else called Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. This is caused by that lack of thiamine we just talked about. This leads to some really unique symptoms, like confusion, vision problems, and something called confabulation, where people literally start inventing stories to fill in the massive gaps in their memory. Okay, so let's bring this all home. We've seen the potential benefit of a little, and the definite massive harm of a lot. So what's the one thing you really need to take away from all of this? It really boils down to one simple, powerful concept. The relationship between alcohol and your brain is entirely dose-dependent. That means the amount you drink isn't just a minor detail. It is everything. The science draws a very, very clear line in the sand between what could be harmless and what is definitely dangerous. And knowing precisely where that line is, that's where the power lies.
And look, alcohol isn't the whole story, of course. Protecting your brain health is about the big picture. And the research is overwhelmingly clear that some of the most powerful tools we have for reducing dementia risk are regular physical activity, a balanced diet, and staying away from tobacco.
So we'll end with a question for you to think about. Now that you've seen the data, now that you know exactly where the line between moderation and excess is drawn, what does this information mean for your choices and for your health? Thanks for watching.